pourquoi pas.
De qui t'as le plus peur, de toi ou de moi?
Vous aurez comme moi 30 ans de mariage dans les pattes. Je dirais avec fierté.
Félicitations. Oh, t'as un moustique sur la joue.
Je voulais seulement vivre avec toi. Sans quotidien.
In Paris, France, Alexander has been living with his fiancée Laure for 5 years. When Laure surprises him with a thoughtful gift of slippers on Valentine's Day, Alexander realizes that their intimate moments have lost some of their excitement, and he confronts the reality that their once passionate relationship has transformed into a monotonous routine. Seeking a break from Laure, Alexander decides to spend a few days at his friend's T and Maud's beachfront cottage. Arriving on a stormy night, he is startled to witness a woman entering through the window, performing a handstand. This woman turns out to be Fanfan, granddaughter of Alexander's friends. Curiously, despite having heard about her in the past, Alexander and Fanfan have never been introduced. Fanfan reveals that Maud cautioned her about Alexander, claiming he isn't particularly charming. Fanfan, however, brushes off his reputation and mentions her ambition to become a perfumer like Maud, expressing no aversion to Alexander's scent. Since there is only one guest room, Fanfan suggests sharing the bed, arguing that they are civilized beings and shouldn't sleep on the floor. Initially hesitant, Alexander is convinced by Fanfan, who playfully accuses him of being afraid. Unfortunately, their decision to share the bed proves to be ill-advised as Fanfan's restless behavior prevents Alexander from getting a good night's sleep. Despite these annoyances, the following morning, Alexander finds himself unable to take his eyes off Fanfan from a distance. Recognizing that their previous plan didn't go as expected, Fanfan takes Alexander to an abandoned house she refers to as her secret hideout, where they spend time together, enjoying each other's company.
Alors 5 minutes.
Several days later, Alexander realizes he is supposed to meet Laure and her parents and hastily returns to Paris. Upon entering his apartment, he is taken aback to find a woman dressed as a call girl waiting for him. To his surprise, it turns out to be Laure in disguise, hoping to rekindle their relationship. However, Laure's patience has worn thin, and she urges them to hurry off to dinner. During their visit to Laure's parents' home, Alexander's mood dampens as he observes his in-laws trapped in a dull marriage, raising concerns about his own future. Laure's father insists that Alexander should take over the family's funeral home business, which further contributes to his melancholy. Meanwhile, Laure confides in a friend about her feelings for Alexander and her desire to be with him. Later, when Alexander returns to his friend's house, he confides in Tai about his attraction to Fanfan but expresses hesitation about pursuing her due to his weariness of falling into familiar patterns. Tai points out that a one-night-only date wouldn't be fulfilling either, prompting Alexander to contemplate the concept of platonic love, a potential solution to break free from his cyclic experiences. He will court Fanfan and take her on extravagant dates, but he will never engage in kissing or confess his love to her. This way, he can relish in the thrill of unfulfilled desire and avoid the mundane aspects of relationships, such as petty arguments over trivial matters. By maintaining a platonic connection, he also believes he is technically not betraying Laure. For their first outing, Alexander buys Fanfan flowers and treats her to a luxurious dinner in an upscale apartment. They thoroughly enjoy each other's company, deepening their understanding of one another, even discovering personal details like Fanfan's struggle to pay rent. Later in the evening, Fanfan realizes that Alexander had lied about the apartment and it doesn't belong to his family. Alexander confesses that he wanted to provide her with the luxury she deserves. Just as they are caught in the midst of this revelation, the actual owners arrive. Touched by Alexander's gesture, Fanfan assists him in fabricating a misunderstanding regarding rent before they make their swift getaway. Subsequently, Alexander surprises Fanfan by blindfolding her and claiming to take her all the way to Vienna. However, he brings her to a television studio instead, meticulously designed to resemble Vienna in 1813. Dressed in period costumes, Alexander and Fanfan engage in a waltz and indulge in a dramatic role play, simulating an attack as in the most impassioned soap operas. It is a joyous and captivating experience until Alexander proposes a toast to their friendship, leaving Fanfan disappointed and hurt. As the night draws to a close, Alexander offers to drive Fanfan home, but she retaliates by requesting to be dropped off at Paul's place, a sculptor friend who is creating a nude study of her. Later, upon returning to his apartment, Alexander finds Laure awake and waiting for him, already suspicious of his fidelity. Alexander is forthcoming and admits to spending time with another woman, but he vehemently asserts that their interactions remain strictly platonic. Their conversation unexpectedly escalates into an argument about the guest list for their wedding, leaving Laura pondering the state of their relationship. Alexander assures her that everything is fine and blames their current situation on their age, attempting to divert her attention by initiating intimacy. The following day, a frustrated Fanfan confides in Maud, who realizes she is unaware of Laura's existence. Maud enlightens Fanfan about Alexander's engagement, provoking her anger and determination to focus on her upcoming exams as a means of forgetting him. However, Fanfan struggles to resist Alexander's allure and continues spending time with him, despite her frustration and his unwillingness to enter her apartment at the conclusion of each date. Meanwhile, Alexander discreetly assists Fanfan with her rent by approaching her landlord and learns that the neighboring apartment is vacant. Eventually, Fanfan grows weary of their game and invites Alexander to a bar for a drink. There, she candidly reveals her knowledge of lore and issues an ultimatum. You must choose between lore and Fanfan. Alexander insists that he simply wants to maintain a friendship with Fanfan, but she astutely detects his attraction based on his caramel scent. Feeling trapped in the situation, Alexander feigns needing to use the restroom, but instead rushes to the nearest pharmacy to purchase a sleeping powder. He discreetly adds it to Fanfan's drink, causing her to feel drowsy, and then swiftly takes her away in his car. The following morning, Fanfan awakens at the beach and seizes the opportunity to go for a swim, clad only in her underwear. Believing this signifies that Alexander is no longer playing games, she asks him to apply sunscreen to her back, intensifying the tension between them. As Alexander teeters on the verge of finally kissing Fanfan, her moment is abruptly disrupted by the arrival of Laura, who attempts to embrace spontaneity, as Alexander prefers. She brings significant news. Their wedding preparations are complete, and more importantly, she is expecting a child. Fanfan, clearly distraught, simultaneously congratulates the couple while delivering a resounding slap to Alexander before departing. This reciprocal upset fuels Alexander's discontent, which Laura perceives, leading her to create a scene and express her desire for Alexander to actually cheat on her, as it would provide clarity regarding their desires, since she is unable to comprehend his true intentions. A few days later, Fanfan remains deeply upset, causing her to fail her exams due to her distraught state. Meanwhile, Laura unintentionally requests that Alexander purchase something for her monthly needs at the store and finds herself compelled to admit that she is not truly pregnant. She impulsively lied on the beach out of panic. Laura asserts that their marriage cannot thrive if Alexander cannot make a definitive decision. Consequently, Alexander officially cancels the wedding by discarding the invitations into the drain. Subsequently, he searches for Fanfan and discovers her boarding a bus destined for Italy. Determined to speak with her, he embarks on a pursuit but ultimately hesitates and refrains from boarding at the next bus stop. Sometime later, Alexander confides in Tai, expressing his desire to live with Fanfan but his reluctance to succumb to the routines that accompany such a commitment. Recognizing that Fanfan will not wait indefinitely and will return from her vacation in 10 days, Alexander devises a plan. He will utilize this period to purchase the adjacent apartment to Fanfan's, furnish it to resemble hers, and install a one-way mirror. This way, he can observe her and pretend they are cohabitating without actually doing so. The scheme proves successful, and upon Fanfan's return to Paris, Alexander relishes in her company daily, unbeknownst to her. One day, Fanfan calls to apologize for the earlier slap and suggests going out for lunch with her grandparents, emphasizing their intention to be just friends. However, when they meet, Alexander is taken aback to discover that Paul is accompanying them, as he is now dating Fanfan. Alexander feigns happiness for the couple, but his jealousy is evident, leaving him feeling like an uncomfortable third wheel. During Paul's brief absence to use the restroom, Alexander seizes the opportunity to inform Fanfan that he has ended his relationship with Laura. However, Fanfan dismisses his confession, stating that it is too late for them. As they gather for lunch with Tai and Maud, Paul surprises everyone by announcing his engagement to Fanfan, further dampening Alexander's spirits. Later that evening, when Alexander returns to his apartment, he starts packing his belongings, believing he has lost any chance with Fanfan. However, he halts his actions when he witnesses a heated argument between Fanfan and Paul through the mirror. It becomes evident that their supposed romantic involvement was part of Fanfan's plan to make Alexander jealous, with Maud also playing along. Although Paul indeed desires a relationship with Fanfan, she rejects his advances, leaving him puzzled as to why she continues to think about Alexander despite his foolish behavior. Fanfan confesses that her opinion of Alexander changed when she discovered his assistance with her rent, revealing his underlying kindness. Meanwhile, Tai reveals to Maud the existence of Alexander's one-way mirror, extracting a promise from her to keep this knowledge from Fanfan. However, Maud breaks her word, and the following day, Fanfan returns to her apartment fully aware of who is on the other side of the mirror, demanding an explanation. Speaking loudly enough for his voice to carry through the mirror, Alexander recounts his failed attempt to catch the bus and shares painful childhood memories, including his mother's string of different partners who would occupy her room each night. Growing up, he developed a belief that love always turns sour. In response, Fanfan assures him that will never be the case with her. She kisses the mirror and presses her body against it, expressing her deep need for him. Yet, when Alexander merely responds by touching the mirror in return, Fanfan reminds him that it is not enough. She is weary of games, issuing a deadline. Alexander must come to her apartment by 10 p.m., or else he will lose her forever. Uncertain of what to do, Alexander seeks solace at a bar to gather his thoughts, inadvertently missing the deadline. Upon his return to the apartment, he discovers Fanfan's absence, finding only a letter indicating her intention to reunite with her sister. Desperate to make amends, Alexander contacts Maud to inquire about Fanfan's sister and learns that she passed away years ago after ending her life at the river. Fearing that Fanfan may have similar intentions, Alexander breaks down in tears, reminiscing about their time together and realizing that he wouldn't mind being married to Fanfan after all. Suddenly, his grieving is interrupted by a peculiar noise emanating from his apartment. Fanfan is shattering the mirror, symbolically breaking down the barriers between them. Finally, they embrace and share a kiss as Fanfan explains that she is setting a new deadline. Alexander now has until 10 to win her back, a challenge that he wholeheartedly embraces.